I'm a crime scene cleaner. There's one rule we never break. If the landline rings, let it ring. My name is Macaulay. I'm 52 years old, and I've spent the better part of my life erasing the worst moments of other people's lives. I'm a technician for BioClean Solutions, a company specializing in biological risk remediation. That's just a fancy term for saying we are the janitors of hell. When the police finish their forensics and the coroner takes the body away, we go in. We clean up the blood, the bodily fluids, the bone fragments, and the brain matter stuck to the walls and furniture. We sort of make the place livable again, so the family can sell the house and try to forget that dad killed mom at the dinner table. It's a job that pays well. Very well. You don't see job postings for this kind of work just anywhere. It requires a specific type of emotional detachment. You need to look at a bloodstain on the carpet and not see a tragedy. You need to see a protein that requires a specific enzyme to be broken down. I don't use tablets, I don't use drones, I don't use digital UV lights. My work is manual, chemical, and solitary. Mop, industrial enzymes, hydrogen peroxide, and thick red bags. I like the silence. I like the methodical repetition of turning red chaos into a clean, sterile floor. There are unwritten rules in our profession, passed down from veteran to rookie like campfire tales. Don't take anything home. Don't look at the picture frames. Seeing the happy faces makes the blood on the floor unbearably sad. And the oldest one of all, if the landline rings, let it ring. Houses where violent deaths occurred are like bells that have been struck hard. They continue to vibrate long after the sound has stopped. The air is dense, the electricity is unstable, and the phones, well, there are still people with landlines in their homes, and sometimes the person calling doesn't know there's no one left to answer. Last Tuesday, I was called to the Vale's residence. It was an old mansion, colonial style, isolated at the end of a dirt road, surrounded by tall eucalyptus trees that block the sun even at noon. The crime had been brutal, a robbery homicide that happened 3 days prior. The victim, an elderly lady named Helena, lived alone. The police had already released the scene. The body was gone, only the mess remained. I parked my old van on the gravel. The silence of the place was absolute. No birds, no crickets, just the wind making the eucalyptus leaves whisper like muffled voices. I put on my gear on the porch, the white Tyvek suit, the thick rubber gloves, the boots, the full-face respirator mask with activated carbon filters. I looked like an astronaut lost on a hostile planet. I went inside. The house was a time capsule. Dark, solid wood furniture, heavy velvet curtains, Persian rugs, and the smell. The metallic tang of blood was there, strong, fighting against the scents of lavender and floor wax. The incident occurred in the music room at the back of the house. I walked down the long hallway, my boots making a muffled thud on the hardwood floor. I opened the double doors to the music room. It was a devastating scene. There was a grand piano in the corner, shelves with sheet music scattered everywhere, and in the center of the beige rug, a dark stain, dry at the edges, but still viscous in the center where the pool had been deeper. There were drag marks leading from the piano to the broken window. I took a deep breath, the filtered air entering my lungs cold. "Let's get this over with," I muttered. I started the routine. First, remove the glass shards from the broken window, then cut and remove the part of the rug that was unsalvageable. Finally, treat the hardwood that had absorbed the blood. I worked for 2 hours in silence. The sun began to set, dyeing the room a melancholic orange. The shadows of the furniture elongated, looking like stretched fingers trying to touch the stain on the floor. I was on my knees, scrubbing the floorboards with a stiff bristled brush, when I felt it, a sudden drop in temperature. It wasn't a draft. It was as if someone had opened a freezer door right behind my back. The sweat inside my suit froze instantly. I gripped the brush. My instincts screamed. I raised my head. The room was empty, but it felt full. The dust motes dancing in the rays of the setting sun seemed to have stopped in midair. I looked at the floor, at the wood I had been scrubbing for 20 minutes. The stain. I had just cleaned it. I had seen the clean wood, pale from the chemicals. But now, the blood was there again, and it wasn't dry. It was bright red, shiny, hot. It bubbled slightly between the cracks in the wood, as if it were springing from an underground source. I scrambled backward, dragging myself away. "What in the hell is this?" I whispered. That's when the phone rang. It was an antique device, a rotary phone made of black Bakelite, resting on a side table near the piano. The ring wasn't electronic. It was a mechanical, physical, shrill clatter that echoed through the empty room like a scream. I froze. I looked at the pool of fresh blood. I looked at the phone. The rule said, "Don't answer." But the house seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for me to pick up. The air was so dense it was hard to move my arms. The sense of urgency was physical, a hand squeezing my chest. What if it was the realtor? What if it was the police saying they were coming back? Logic tried to rationalize the fear, even if it made no sense. I stood up slowly. I walked to the table. My hand, encased in the yellow rubber glove, was trembling. The phone rang for the 4th time. I lifted the receiver. I brought it to my ear, over the straps of my mask. "Hello?" My voice came out hoarse. There was only static at first, a white hiss like distant rain, and then a voice, a woman's voice, trembling, whispering, terrified. "They're in the garden," she whispered, terrified. I felt a chill run down my spine. It wasn't a recording. The voice reacted to my breathing. "Who is this?" I asked. "Please, you need to help me," the woman continued, ignoring my question, speaking fast and low. "I saw through the gap in the curtains. There's a man in the garden. He's standing there staring at the music room window." I looked at the music room window, the window that was broken when I arrived. Now, the glass was intact. There was no hole, no shards on the floor. The glass was perfect, reflecting my face covered by the gas mask. "Ma'am," I said, trying to keep calm, though my heart was hammering. "Who are you? Where are you?" "It's me, Helena," she sobbed. "I'm in the living room. I'm hiding behind the piano. I tried to call the police, but the line is dead. I only managed to call this number. Why did you take so long to answer?" Helena, the victim, the woman who was taken out of this room in a black bag 3 days ago. I looked at the grand piano in the corner of the room. There was no one behind it. I had cleaned there 10 minutes ago. "Miss Helena," I began, feeling a nauseating vertigo. "You aren't there." "Of course I am," she hissed, panic raising her voice. "Shh, he's moving. He's coming to the window. My God, he's huge. He's wearing strange clothes, all white." I looked at my reflection in the window glass again. White Tyvek suit, black full-face gas mask, yellow gloves. I looked like a monster, an alien, a white demon. "Miss Helena," I said, my mouth dry. "What are you seeing?" "He has a rubber face," she was crying softly now. "He has no eyes, just big glass circles. He has a tube coming out of his mouth, like a trunk. He's holding a weapon, a silver thing." I looked at my right hand. I was holding the metal scraper I used to clean the floor. Under the setting sun, it shone like a broad knife. A horrible realization descended upon me. Time in this house wasn't a straight line. It was a scratched record, repeating the end of the song eternally. I wasn't just cleaning the crime scene. I was haunting the crime scene. "Miss Helena, listen to me," I spoke, desperate. "I am not the killer. I am the cleaner. I came to clean afterwards. I come from the future, basically." "What are you saying? You're crazy," she screamed, and I heard the sound of her voice not just on the phone, but echoing physically in the room, coming from the corner of the piano, even though no one was there. "He's raising his hand. He's going to break the glass." I raised my hand instinctively to touch the glass to show I was real, that I meant no harm. "No, I just want to help." "No!" she screamed. The moment my fingers touched the glass, I heard a deafening crash. The glass exploded inward, but I didn't break it. The glass exploded through me. Shards flew, passing through my body as if I were made of smoke. I fell back, dropping the phone. The room changed. The light vanished, replaced by the darkness of night, but I still saw the room, and now I saw Helena. She was there, cowering behind the piano, an elderly lady with white hair wearing a blue silk robe. She was terrified, clutching a cordless phone against her chest. She was looking toward the broken window, but not at me. She was looking at the figure entering through the window. A figure dressed in black, hooded, holding a crowbar. The real killer. I was on the floor, invisible, watching. I was a ghost at the moment of her death. I tried to scream, "Run!" but no sound came out of my throat. I was just a spectator, an echo. The killer advanced. Helena screamed and ran. She tripped on the rug. The killer caught her in the center of the room. He raised the crowbar. I closed my eyes. I heard the sound, the wet, horrible sound of metal against bone. Once, twice, 3 times. I heard her last breath gurgle out. I opened my eyes. The room was empty again. It was day. The orange sunlight returned. The window was broken, as it was when I arrived. The phone was on the hook. And in the center of the room, the pool of blood. Steaming. Fresh. She had just died. Again. I was shaking uncontrollably. The nausea was overwhelming. The blood I was cleaning, it wasn't old. It was her blood dying now, and now, and now. The house was trapped in a spasm of agony, reliving the trauma repeatedly, and I, by entering and cleaning, was just part of the cycle. I grabbed my things. I threw everything into the backpack haphazardly. I needed to get out of there. I ran to the music room door. It was locked. I turned the knob. Nothing. It's no use. The voice came from behind me. I turned slowly. Had the phone rung? No. The voice came from the corner of the room. There was a stain on the wall, a shadow that didn't belong to the furniture. The shadow had the shape of a woman, and she was looking at me. It wasn't Helena's ghost. It was the house's memory, the psychic imprint left by the pain. "Why do you clean?" the voice whispered, echoing inside my head. "You erase the proof. If you erase the blood, no one will remember I was here." "I need to clean," I stammered. "It's my job. It's so your family can sell the house, so they can move on." "Move on," the shadow laughed, a broken laugh like ground glass. "No one moves on here. Time is a circle, cleaner, and you just stepped into the wheel." The phone rang again. I looked at the device. I knew who it was. It was her. Again. At the beginning of the cycle. She was calling to say she saw the man in the garden, and if I answered, I would see it all again. I would feel her death again. "Answer it," the shadow ordered. "Maybe this time you can save me. Maybe this time you get to her before him." It was a trap. The trap of hope. Hell isn't fire and brimstone. Hell is the hope that you can change a past that is already written in blood. If I answered, I would be stuck in the loop. I would try to save her, fail, clean the blood, and the phone would ring again. I would be here forever, an idiot in a white jumpsuit pushing a boulder of guilt up a hill. I grabbed my bucket of chemicals. I walked to the phone. I lifted the bucket, and with a scream of rage and fear, I brought the heavy bucket down on the phone. Crack! It shattered. The ring died halfway. Silence returned to the room, heavy, resentful. The shadow in the corner flickered and vanished. The pool of blood on the floor stopped bubbling. It darkened, dried, turned into just an old, sad stain. I unlocked the door. It opened easily. I left the house without looking back. I left the dirty rug. I left the broken glass. I left the job half finished. I got in my van and drove to the nearest town. I stopped at a dirty bar and ordered a double whiskey, still wearing the Tyvek suit unzipped at the waist, my hands shaking. I never went back to the Vale's residence. The real estate agency called me, furious, saying the cleaning wasn't finished. They said they would send another technician. I tried to warn them. I tried to tell them not to send anyone. I said the house was sick, that the house was stuck. They laughed and hung up. Yesterday, I ran into an old coworker. I asked about the guy they sent to finish the job there, a young man named Marcos. "Marcos?" my colleague shook his head. "Poor guy. He quit, lost his mind. What happened?" "No one knows for sure. The police found him in the house 2 days later. He was sitting in the corner of the music room, staring at the wall. Was he hurt? Not physically, but he was holding the receiver of a broken phone against his ear, and he kept repeating the same phrase non-stop. What was he saying?" My colleague took a sip of beer and shuddered. "He was saying, 'This time I almost made it. This time I almost made it. Just one more time. Just one more time.'" I paid the bill and left. The echo hasn't stopped. It just changed listeners. And sometimes when I'm scrubbing a tough stain in a silent house and the phone rings, I drop everything and run. Because I know there are calls that if you answer, you can never hang up.
Like the video and subscribe for more.